It's daybreak on Rice News, and it's time for the press preview. First look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. We start with this day. Buhari, Nigeria's huge dependence on imported agricultural products to end soon. Saludo, that's the governor in the southeastern Anambra state. We will get water out of stone with a number of people behind us. At the top, grid collapse. Lawmakers lambast power minister, demand improved electricity supply. 2023, Nigeria's president must come from the south. Southwest PDP insists.
All right, let's take a look at Punch. Massive job cut looms. Dollar hits 590 as forex scarcity bites harder. It has two riders there. We buy over 90% of forex from BDCs. Job losses likely, lament manufacturers. And banks limit online transactions to $20 per month. Travelers, others patronize BDCs. I think this is found. I can't clearly see the page where it, but check out that on Punch. And then just the picture there, Dangote's 82.5 billion fertilizer plant will boost food production export. This is coming from the president who was there yesterday at Lekki to commission that particular fertilizer plant that is said to be the second largest in the world. We'll leave it there for the next paper.
And also on Dangote's fertilizer plant, the nation leading with that photo. Buhari says $2.5 billion Dangote fertilizer plant will boost forex earnings. Other headlines on the nation's newspaper this morning. PDP quakes over zoning. Riders, let's focus on getting power, says Tambuwal, and the party's Southwest leaders insist on power shift. Just below that, APC convention, Buhari invites chairmanship aspirants. Presidential support for Adamu seems shaky. Mustafa Musa Al-Makuda Pali. Above the nameplate of the nation this morning, Governor Soludo says, I inherited 100 billion naira debt, while the NBA warns against reckless court rulings.
Quick one, the Guardian newspaper, APC throws screening open to all chairmanship aspirants. 418 million Africans in need as world marks Water Day. That's on page 4. Southwest PDP leaders insist next president must come from the south. And the federal government hails Dangote, hopeful of $400 million inflow from fertilizer export.
Right, let's go to the foreign papers. Daily Express. Daily Express says that Kate and Wills go divine with sharks. Don't worry, they don't bite. All right, just the headline, by the way. Rishi, I'll ease economic plan. It has two riders there. I will ease economic pain, rather. Daily Express.
And the Financial Times. Sunak to lay aside windfall cash rather than helping households. £20 billion extra in finances, chunk reserved for debt cost, and the MPs want push on living costs. Other headlines on the Financial Times. Oil pipeline squeeze raises fears of Kremlin retaliation over sanctions.
And the Times is leading with a warning. Ukrainian troops are running out of weapons. Germany failing to send promised military aid.
All right, the Independent. Putin's soldiers kidnap thousands of children with two riders there, more than 2,300 illegally deported from Donetsk and Luhansk. Ukraine claims offensive is stalled as Russian troops desert.
And for the press preview, let's have Emmanuel Bello, who joins us from our offsite studio. Emmanuel, good morning. Good to have you. Thanks for joining us. As always, let's take a look at this day newspaper. The leading photo there, the caption says Nigeria's economy gets a boost. Now, this is pertaining to the $2.5 billion Dangote fertilizer plant inaugurated yesterday by President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, Dangote is making huge bets. He says exports from the plant will go to Brazil, which relies heavily on Russia for imports of fertilizer. He says shipments will also go to Mexico, the United States, and India. Emmanuel.
Good morning, Kechi, and well, that's a piece of good news. A lot of people are leading with political story, but this day, leading with what should concern all of us, a very important story, and that's what happened yesterday. I think that's a fine way to go in news angles. Politics is great, and it's not as if the paper did not report that, but putting this to the front burner, the story of what Dangote is done in Lagos and how that is going to affect the rest of us. Buhari already, speaking his mind on that and saying that, the huge dependence on important agricultural product is bound to end soon. And his confidence is anchored on these fertilizer plants. You agree with me that a lot of farmers complain increasingly about how they cannot access fertilizer in the past, especially the crisis of even the corruption around its distribution and even access to it in the first place, not to talk of the cost as we speak now. But this is going to ease that, and it is promising a great deal of things. So this is a piece of good news. In all the gloom that you have in the country, the crisis of power failure, the long queues and everything, suddenly out of nowhere, you are getting this good news, this good story, this beautiful forecast, putting a little bit hope, raising the hope of the common man that very soon the food crisis that we're even experiencing will come to an end. So it's a bit of a good story, and the statistics are there. Dangote is saying that it's going to do more. It's not just about the fertilizer plants. It's also about the other investment that the Dangote company is making across the economy. Emefiele is saying that this is the way to go. Private individuals getting involved in what government is trying to do, and that this is going to really, really help the economy, and talking about the support that the CBN is giving to this initiative, especially for farmers. And Emefiele is saying that that is also part of the president's vision when he took over, to ensure that we become self-sufficient. We stop looking out for many things that we can do here, and this is one of the one great example of it.
Emmanuel, speaking of good news, so many things happened in Lagos. There was also the new airport terminal and the Lekki deep sea port. The president's also directed Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed to source special funding for Abuja Airport's second runway. So something will be coming to Abuja as well. Still in this day, fearing legal challenge, the APC has cleared all aspirants for national convention. But I want to take a look at this one. 2023, Nigeria's president must come from the south, and that's according to the Southwest PDP. In the National Star, Emmanuel, which you've been reading, I hope, the presidency is accusing the PDP, that's the People's Democratic Party, of promoting violence in the country. And what do you know about the NPDP bloc, Emmanuel? The National Star says they're plotting to take over from the APC.
Well, those are developments in the polity. We've always talk about a third force, imagine, Kenneth, and I think that story is speaking to that. The fact that politicians are looking for alternative platform to run, not just the predominant ruling APC or even the PDP, but some different kind of platform where they can rally around and pursue their dreams and pursue their ambition. That is ongoing, with Rabiu Kwankwaso leading the charge. How that becomes successful is something that we need to keep our eye on, because these parties strong vehicles. You need a strong platform to be able to actualize any of your ambition, especially the presidential ambition. That's why you see that the APC and the PDP are still the biggest runners, or the biggest take for most political activists who want to run for office. And the other stories that we are following, the crisis of zoning. The PDP is still very strong. In Tambuwal yesterday, very, very fiery in his in delivering his speech and talking about why the PDP cannot afford to talk about zoning now. one paper clearly putting it, it's in the Guardian newspaper, saying that, look, let's get the power first before we share it. That's intoning what Tambuwal said, that, look, it's all right now for the PDP, it's how to get power. After that, you talk about sharing it. He said, if you win the zoning and you don't win the election, what's the point? That's what Tambuwal is saying. And he's talking about zoning, not only just to, but in a way, he's actually also speaking of zoning, because he said, look, PDP should think of opening this to the north. And that he spoke about numbers. I've spoken to a lot of politicians who like to talk about numbers these days, because elections are getting better, and yes, numbers will play a very important role. Who is able to control what number, who has the highest demography. Tambuwal was pointing to all of that yesterday, and he was saying that, look, that was the wisdom APC even used in winning elections 7 years ago, that they look at where the numbers will come from. So he's saying that PDP must be smart about how they go about this, and not just the niceties of where or political correctness of zoning as it is, but the practicality of it. He say the party needs to be very practical. Yeah, but of course, there are people who say that that's very illogical of him to say, and that zoning is the only way to go, and that power must shift to this. Some people can just conceive of the fact that a northerner will still want to hold on to power. Tambuwal is still speaking, say that, look, it's not just even about a northerner, it's about competence. And he was reeling out his records. Atiku did the same thing, saying that, look, they've done this before and they can do it again. So they are running on merit as well, but saying that that is what PDP needs. PDP needs someone that can bring the numbers in and also can bring the capacity in to win elections.
I was the screening of APC for those who are contesting for chairmanship. I wondered why, number one, why it should be put for 10 p.m. I'm not feeling very comfortable, very tired here really this morning. So I wondered that. But the president is inviting all the chairmanship aspirants, you know. What sense do you make of that invitation?
Well, you know, he's the leader of the party, and he should be able to take a lot of interest. APC too is not out of the woods when it comes to what they are going to do on the 26th, especially the national chairmanship. You know, no one is backing down. So probably this is a meeting to, you know, to look at that and to say, look, let's be very practical too. Both sides are talking about practicality. They are going beyond the niceties of whether you are competent or not, whether you want to be. It's not about an individual ambition now. It's about the life of the party and how the party is going to survive. So maybe the president is calling for these meetings to actually have those you know, last-minute kind of interventions towards working towards a consensus candidate. And it's not always easy arriving at consensus among these political people, because we're talking about people sacrificing a lot, you know, putting down their ambitions. So it will take a lot of, you know, some form of, you know, promises and other kind of give and take situation. So the president wants to weigh into this, it appears, to see whether by 26, when they get to Eagle Square, few miles away, a few meters away from here, so that they can decide whether they're going to, you know, decide on that, and whether they're going to do their best to see that they arrive at a consensus candidate.
All right, thank you so much, Manuel Bello, for joining us on the press preview today.